The negative influences I'm seeing online are a lot of get-rich-quick gurus like Andrew Tate.
The young men who are engaging with this content are far more likely to have much worse mental health.
So, manosphere versus liberalism. Now, this is a hot topic at the moment because, at least in the Western countries, Generation Z has started to lean towards the right, the conservatives, whilst the thought was that Generation Z will be further to the left than the millennials. So we're going to check out this video, Toxic Masculinity and Alpha Male Influencers Impact Worse Than First Thought. Okay, let's get into it.
The negative influences I'm seeing online are a lot of get-rich-quick gurus like Andrew Tate that kind of sell you this idea of like things can happen overnight.
Joe Rogan, he's pretty popular with the young guys. I'm not really into all that, but yeah.
Andrew Tate and people like him are becoming more popular around teenagers, especially men.
Some kids a while ago in my school did. They followed him and like agreed with all this stuff.
They see like him as the kind of alpha male and they just want to become like him.
Masculinity is directly under attack because it's masculinity that's going to resist the enslavement that's coming from the United Kingdom.
Young men don't even realize what they're kind of being led into or the kind of trap. Some young men can be completely oblivious to it and start living a certain way.
20-year-old Caleb is worried about the impact social media is having on his generation.
One side of the coin, like, they're kind of selling you this kind of way to like be better, but on the other side, they're trying to sell you something that's not really you. And it is good to have good income. It is good to kind of strive to be better, but the ways that they're portraying it just isn't like right.
A new report from the Movember Institute has revealed almost 7 in 10 young men regularly tune into influencers who are shaping their attitudes, behaviour and...
So the manosphere is just basically an ideology that exists online, promoted by figures like Myron Gaines, Andrew Tate, Dan Bilzerian. On the extreme opposite, there's the liberal ideology. It has been dominated the culture, at least in the Western countries, for quite a number of years. Funny thing is that both of them actually share a lot of traits. So the manosphere takes the traditional and cultural aspects of intersectional dynamics coupled with the biological derived behaviors, whilst the liberal ideology takes both of male and female behaviors as interchangeable. Men can behave in a feminine way and it's completely fine, and women can behave in a masculine way and that's completely fine. The two most important things that come out of these ideologies are the descriptions and the prescriptions. Now, the reason why manosphere is appealing to younger generations of men is because their descriptions are correct. Now, the liberal ideology believes that those standards and behaviors that can be attributed to biological reality can all be taken and molded in a way where they can create a society that fulfills the utopia dream. It's important to understand that both of the ideologies are just sides of the same coin, as in, even though the manosphere can have the descriptions correct, their prescriptions are extremely incorrect. Whilst the liberal ideology, their descriptions are incorrect and their prescriptions are also incorrect. A prescription that is not grounded in a moral structure cannot have a good effect on society. The manosphere takes each individual person and applies a standard that will make them succeed at the expense of society. Now, the liberal ideology will take the individual and the society and sacrifice them both to invoke their vision of utopia.
and even their health.
This is a mainstream situation whereby over 60% of the 3,000 men that we spoke to are directly engaging with this content.
Psychologist Dr. Zach Seidler is head of men's health research at Movember.
This content is providing them with a feeling of optimism. It's really offering them a sense of motivation and self-betterment.
43% of men found these influencers motivating, and almost half felt a greater sense of purpose.
At odds with that, there was a really interesting finding, which is that the young men who are engaging with this content are far more likely to have much worse mental health than those who are not. they are much more likely to be describing feelings of worthlessness, of hopelessness, of sadness.
76% of participants viewed emotional expression as a sign of weakness. 23% even stating they've taken or considered taking steroids.
I know there are a lot of people.
The feeling of hopelessness exists within the manosphere is because it's describing a true biological function, which is men are the expendable sex unless you make something out of yourself. Is the blissful ignorance better way to deal with this sort of an issue? If you guys would be kind enough to drop a like and a sub, I would greatly appreciate it. Let's move on.
People who compare themselves to the bodies or the looks of people online, so I know that's a big thing.
For me, I'm built like a matchstick, so when I see these sort of guys, yeah, there's sort of that aspect of body dysmorphia.
I guess it can be pretty influential sometimes.
The content that young men are largely consuming kind of rallies around a number of different themes. It's a desire to make money, to get ripped, and to get a girlfriend.
Dr. Zach says the negative press around toxic masculinity can fuel the fire.
When society is telling young men what not to do, consistently saying, don't be this, don't talk like that, don't go and speak like that, what happens is that there is a backlash. And that's what we're witnessing now.
But there are content creators striving to create a positive environment for their followers.
I think the negative things that I see is just this focus on the end result rather than the journey, like the quick fixes, the...
Quick observation, the guy that's supposed to be a good perception of masculinity on the internet is wearing earrings, nose piercings, and 3 chains. I think one of them might be a pearl necklace. And I think the guy is wearing a crop top as well.
Focus on steroid abuse, you're not a man unless you look a certain way. The dumbest voices are often the loudest, and that's the problem.
Nathan McCallum has always had an interest in fitness, turning that passion into a career online.
I try and make sure things are realistic. I'm not ego lifting and showing any like over the top things. I try and communicate as well that I've had 12 years of consistent training and nutrition to get to the point that I'm at. It's not a quick fix.
Nathan also enjoys challenging traditional male stereotypes.
I think it's okay to go to the gym and want to have big muscles and abs, and it's okay to paint your nails and be creative and dress the way you want.
Changing the conversation won't be an overnight fix.
Firstly, we need to make sure that the social media companies are held to account when they are throwing out harmful content that doesn't benefit anybody.
I feel like there is good masculinity out there. A lot of people right now don't really understand what just kind of like being a man is in today's society. Being a man to me is living up to your morals and being honest and telling the truth and just being a good guy.
So the main guy that was talking about the negative aspects of the manosphere, I just want to point out, maybe this might be rude, but the guy is not completely stable, which is important when you try to push this sort of a message. Now, the interesting thing is that majority of Western countries are experiencing this. For example, Gen Z men are becoming more right-wing. What does this mean for women's safety? Now the article's title cannot be more biased, but okay. For example, in Australia, the conversation is focusing on the issues of young men apparently becoming more conservative while young women are more progressive. For example, America, Gen Z are becoming more conservative as well as increasingly indifferent to politics, bucking long-standing trends dating back to at least the 1970s. That saw young people across the board voting liberal and men being generally more involved in politics than women. Meanwhile, Gen Z women have not only become the most progressive cohort in US history, but also expected to outpace their male peers across virtually every measure of political involvement, such as donating money, volunteering for campaigns, registering people to vote, and of course, voting.
The concept of being the parent to a young girl who's navigating this world growing up, and you're constantly being told that, you know, be careful, you've got to protect yourself, and men bad, boys bad, they're the enemy almost in a way. And, you know, that's right and wrong. But then also, is it maybe more terrifying to be the parent of a young boy who's got exactly the same kind of images and rhetoric flying at him? It's like, who are they meant to be? Where are the positive role models, and why don't they constantly keep calling out the negative ones? Why is it so hard to discern? Or the parents.
So this is the most important question to ask. Where are the positive role models? Now, in both of the ideologies, because they are not constrained by some sort of a moral or ethical system that is grounded in something tangible, a positive role model cannot exist. One side has the correct descriptions but a degenerate prescription, and the other side has a wrong description and a degenerate prescription. So we're in a sort of a pickle, right? And hopefully people adopt this sort of a thing called nuance. Take the aspects maybe from both sides and adapt them to your ideology, to your principles and standard that you live by, so that you can be content with yourself. That is the most important thing to do. Anyway, if you guys liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye.